Welcome back to Give Me Credit. I'm J.S. Waldo, author of Mortgage Lending Explained, and we are here again today with our credit guru, John Mackey, author of Credit Genius. You can find us both on Substack. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. John, let's jump right in. Tell us what we're doing.
Well, after our last conversation with Jacob, Mr. Hippensteel there on the screen, something unusual happened. He wanted to come back. And when an attorney who works on the inside of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and he wants the second round, it usually means one thing. We didn't cover everything. There's more beneath the surface. For those of you joining us, Mr. Hippensteel is the founder of the Hippensteel Law Firm. He litigates FCRA cases nationwide against credit bureaus, banks, and data furnishers on behalf of consumers harmed by inaccurate reporting. His firm handles a high volume of disputes with a systems-driven approach that maintains both scale and quality. Our first discussion didn't stay comfortable. It started pulling at the gap between what the law says and how the law actually runs, or the system. How disputes are handled behind the scenes, what a reasonable investigation really looks like, and how consumers unknowingly weaken their own position before they even realize it. That's not theory, that's exposure. Because most people think they're just sending letters, and they're not. They're creating a record, and that record can either protect them or can work against them. So this isn't a repeat conversation. It's a continuation. We're going deeper into where disputes turn into liability, what verification really means, and where consumers accidentally sabotage their own case. Because that gap between law and reality, that's where people lose. And today we're stepping right into it. Welcome back, Jacob. Since the last time we talked, have you been busy?
I have, John. Thank you for welcoming me back, John. JS, nice to be back.
Yeah.
As you both know, I love having the opportunity to speak about these issues and educate consumers about their rights and how they can, protect themselves. And yeah, to answer your question, been very busy lately. I think this is something we've talked about offline, but when there are fewer enforcement actions from federal agencies like the CFPB or state attorneys general, there's a lot more clients that need help and find a lawyer like myself. And so, yeah, extremely busy with that. The other thing is just we're seeing, I think people are starting to feel the financial squeeze right now. And when that's the case, then they look for things that could be holding them back, things that could be costing them money. And a lot of times that's a situation where they take a look at their credit report and identify that maybe something's going on there that they would like to get some help with, or at least to get more information about. And that keeps me pretty busy as well.
Well, yeah. And just as a side note here, I learned many things from my dad. Some good, most good, some bad. But one of the good things he told me was that he said, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy man. And that's who you are. So thank
That's a
you.
good. I'm going to steal that from your old man there, because yeah, that's that defines. I'm absolutely one of those people that cannot sit still, and when I don't have something going on, I get a little twitchy with that. So yes, that's right. I like that as a
That's
rule of
funny
thumb.
because my answer would have been give it to a busy woman, but that's just me. Sorry.
Well, yeah, well, women don't typically aren't busy. So
Oh, well,
do
that's
we go down there?
I guess
I'm
that's just
staying out of this one.
I guess that's just because we're so organized and we make it look easy. Right, right.
Yeah, there you go.
So Jacob, let's ask you some questions here. Do you file lawsuits against credit bureaus and the companies that report to them? Before we get into specific errors, can you walk us through how the credit reporting system actually works? Like who the players are, what the law requires of them, and where you step in as a litigator?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess just from a base level, I think the easiest way to understand the structure of credit reporting is to know, I guess, why it exists and who is involved in that process. And so, I think most people are familiar with Equifax, TransUnion, Experian. Those are the large credit reporting agencies. There are a lot of other credit reporting agencies, but those three are the main that we talk about quite a bit. They maintain data on just about everybody. I mean, if you're over the age of 18 and you've engaged in the financial system in any way, you probably have a file with one of the credit reporting agencies. And I think we talked about this a little last time, but one of the big misconceptions with this is that you're the customer, because they all will, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, they all have services that you can sign up for to monitor your credit reporting, which we can talk about whether that's worthwhile or not. And they have systems where you can dispute things, and I certainly don't think that one's worthwhile. But you're not the customer. The reason these things exist is so that creditors, so that lenders can report information about you to other lenders, and everybody can use that information to decide whether or not they want to extend you credit, or whether they want to reduce your credit limits or increase your credit limits, how much they want to charge you for insurance. All those types of things are relevant in the financial industry, and specifically as it relates to credit reporting. And so that I think is a fundamental difference in how most people view this system, is that it's not built for you. You're cog in this machine, but the customers of credit reports are actually lenders. And what we talk a lot about when we talk about the errors and the accuracy on credit reports is we refer to the lenders as furnishers, because they're furnishing information onto the credit report. And then the credit reporting agencies are using that information they've received from all of these furnishers or lenders to essentially populate a credit report that then gets shared about you. The big thing for, I guess, my concern with credit reports is, the legal obligation on the credit reporting agencies to report accurate information and to maintain the maximum possible accuracy of the information that they report about you. And I think as we talk more about this, you'll see that it is, I refer to it as just the big dumb machine that kind of rolls on, and nobody's really taking too close of a look at what's getting reported until somebody raises their hand and says, hey, this isn't accurate. But even then, the big dumb machine just rolls on, and there's lots of reasons why they can report incorrect information, continue reporting incorrect information, and in my view, know that they're doing this and just not care.
Bingo. That's exactly what I feel too. They know what they're doing, but it's costlier for them to fix the problem. What am I trying to say here? It's cost prohibitive, not prohibitive, but they're going to fight every step of the way.
Yes, it'd be more expensive to do it the right way. I mean, if we reduce the whole system down to the three of us, and I was reporting information about JS to John, and JS said, hey, that's not right, well, I'd probably open up my file and look at what I had in that file and say, okay, well, what's not right about this? Let's get this correct before I send more information off to John. That process works when it's the three of us, but when it's 300 million of these files or more, then the process breaks down a little bit. Not because they can't do it the correct way, but because, exactly like you said, John, it's cost prohibitive to do it the correct way. And they'd rather just pay settlements and hope that they don't get sued by, any large state agencies like Attorney General or
class action suits.
Right. And get popped for some large amount that, would make it to where they have to take a second look at this. But here's the thing, they've been doing it this way for a long, long time. This is the model. This is, they understand that this is their financial structure, is that they're going to screw it up quite a bit of the time. And here's the unfortunate reality, is that most consumers who have an error on their credit report, who dispute that error on their credit report in a way where it should have been corrected, don't even know that they can go get a lawyer to sue the credit reporting agencies about it. And that's why I get excited to talk about this type of thing, because there are many of these errors that go uncorrected, and which results in FCRA liability for the credit reporting agencies and the furnishers, and they get off scot-free because nobody takes the next step to get that error corrected, or to get accountability, or to get justice in that situation. And that next step would be contacting somebody like myself, or one of the, hundreds of other attorneys around the country that do this type of work. I mean, there's lots of ways that we as attorneys who do this type of work try to make this extremely accessible because it's important. The system, it doesn't work if you don't hold people accountable, if you don't hold these large companies accountable.
Right. And companies like these companies are not based on ethics. It's based on dollars and cents. And, if ethics were applied, things would be a lot different. But they're not. They're simply not. They're a collector of information. They disseminate this information. And they knew what they were getting into. I'm sorry. I don't have a much of a heart for credit reporting agencies. They're
Okay, well,
egregious in their behavior.
Let's get into real world damages here that affect the consumers.
Okay.
Okay.
So what are the most common types of credit reporting errors you're seeing in litigation right now? Which ones are causing the most real world damage for consumers? Now, when I'm talking about damage, I'm talking about not just talking about a number on the screen. We're talking about mortgages, interest rates, job opportunities, real consequences, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think let's start there at the end with that, because I think that's the big piece that a lot of people will say, okay, fine, maybe I have something in my credit report, but I'm not buying a house right now. I'm not buying a car right now. Why should I care? Well, your insurance rates can be affected by this. If you're applying for a job that in any way deals with the financial industry, that can be affected by your credit report. Security clearance. We have lots of clients who have security clearance issues where they can't have certain things reported about them. And if it's inaccurately reporting, it could cost them their entire, civil service career. We also have, again, when you are then going to use your credit, a mortgage or a car loan, that's the place where these types of things cost you, big time. It makes a huge difference over the life of a loan when your interest rate is slightly higher because of an error on your credit report. But all right, the types of errors. I mean, here's the things that I see that are, we'll go with, there's two that I think are most impactful. And I say impactful in how much those can damage somebody's financial health. And those would be mixed files and identity theft. And so a mixed file, this is one I don't know that many people are very familiar. If you're not familiar with the industry or how these reports are made, it's one that you may not be aware of. But a mixed file happens where someone else's information gets put on your credit report. And so you can have, not just one account that doesn't belong to you. You can have dozens of accounts that don't belong to you. A lawsuit that I handled not long ago, I think we had 25 accounts that did not belong to my client placed on her credit report. And so think about trying to dispute 25 different accounts to say, this isn't mine and please verify this. And I mean, this was multiple rounds of doing this, and it just does not get corrected until somebody stops everything and looks at this. And the only way, in my experience, to get a credit reporting agency to stop what they're doing and actually take a closer look at this is to sue them. I mean, unfortunately, that's the nature of the system, is that's when they take things seriously.
Yeah.
The other thing with mixed files is the reason why I say these are pretty impactful on somebody's financial health is that they get out of hand very fast. So you can start with a single account on your credit report that doesn't belong to you, but now that piece of data about you, your personal information combined with this account that doesn't belong to you, now links you up to other accounts in their system that also don't belong to you, and those get placed on your credit report. And now you have not just one account, but maybe you have 5 accounts that don't belong to you. And now they're really sure that all these other accounts that also don't belong to you belong on your credit report, because that's the way the files are made. The credit reports are made through data point matching. So they're looking at, okay, does this date of birth and this social and this address match together? That's in the perfect world. When I said before, if it was all the 3 of us, I would look at it and say, okay, does this account belong to JS? I've looked and this is the correct name, the correct social, the correct date of birth, the correct address. We'd verify all these different things. Realistically, the credit reporting agencies are happy to match up accounts based on significantly less information than that. And so you end up with accounts that don't belong to you getting put on your report. And then, like I said, that becomes sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy there, where now that account is there, you end up seeing more of those. So, all right, that's one. Mixed files. It's a major issue. If somebody has that going on or sees that going on, you need to talk to a lawyer because you're not going to get it fixed by disputing it. The process is not designed to correct these types of errors, especially where it's a systemic error about how the report is constructed. It's just not going to get corrected in that way.
Okay, so when a person has a mixed file, Jacob, how does the average person even know that they have this?
I think what they'll see on their report are accounts they don't recognize. And if you see multiple accounts that you don't recognize, and actually, and this is maybe a good segue into the identity theft issue, is that identity theft normally happens kind of all at once. You'll see multiple accounts opened up and then they go, 30, 60, 90 days late. Now they're delinquent for the life of the account. That looks like identity theft. Somebody got a hold of your information. They ran up as much as they could in the shortest amount of time possible, and then they're done. Mixed files look like accounts you don't recognize, but a lot of times they'll have fine payment history or at least reasonable payment history, like somebody else's account who wasn't intending to commit identity theft, somebody who's just living their life, and now their account is on your report. You'll also see, if you have accounts that you don't recognize who have all different ages of, this account's 5 years old, this account's 2 years old, this account's 10 years old, that's probably more likely to be a mixed file than it is identity theft because that's just somebody living their life and now their accounts are on your credit report. The other thing, honestly, if the way I train a lot of people to identify this is if you're a junior or a senior or and you have ever lived in the same house as the other, you probably have a mixed file. If you're a twin and your social security number is off by a single digit from your twin's social security number, your date of birth is the same, you've shared the same address, you're probably going to have a mixed file at some point. I've seen many, many of these. And there's also another place this comes up is, this seems like a cultural thing, but I think what it actually is if you have some kind of multi-generational housing, like if you live with your parents or your parents live with you, you're probably going to see this issue come up at some point. Again, it's because of the data matching, the way that they identify which accounts to report about which consumers, it gets confused. And so if you share a lot of the same data points with somebody else, you're likely to see that person's accounts on your credit report.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot in the mortgage. As working for a lender as an underwriter, you nailed it. It's right on the head. And it's kind of sad because they're the ones stuck trying to fix it, right? Which is when they have to come with you. So you mentioned identity theft as a major category. A lot of people assume if they don't open the account, it'll just come off once they report it. Like they'll just contact them and say, hey, this isn't my account. Identity. What's the actual reality? Let's get into that one. That one's very prevalent these days.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we see a lot of it. And I think because it's so prevalent, the issue is that there are not good systems in place to catch this or to correct it. And so, yes, you would think that a furnisher or a credit reporting agency could identify sort of that pattern that I described of the way an account is opened and no payments are ever made. The problem is that I think there's a lot of distrust and again, this gets back to the fact that the consumer is not the customer of these agencies, the credit reporting agencies. They do not defer to you on anything. And so it's fine for you to say this is absolutely identity theft. They don't believe you. They will not believe you no matter how many times you tell them. The big issue with identity theft is always have it accompanied by, when you're disputing identity theft, always have it accompanied by a police report of some kind. And that can be an FTC ID theft affidavit. As long as it's been filed and it has a report number on it, that's a law enforcement report, or your local police department. The issue a lot of my clients have run into is that police departments just don't care about identity theft. It's just not a thing that they're equipped to look into. Most law enforcement agencies at the local level do not have any kind of cyber crime investigation ability or cross jurisdictional. I mean, it's a hard problem to solve. It's not, they're not, your local police department's not doing anything wrong with this. It's just, this is a difficult issue to solve. I think for most consumers though, they don't necessarily care if the person who did this is caught. Like, yeah, great. We would like that person to be caught. We don't want criminals amongst us in society. But realistically, the harm to you is that it's on your credit report. It's going to cost you money. You need to get it off of your credit report. And again, I think because we see so much of it, the credit reporting agencies aren't doing the best job of cleanly getting these things removed or even freezing a credit report during the time while you're trying to investigate it. All these tools that you have available to you are under the FCRA are not always, I guess, complied with by the credit reporting agencies. And again, it's because they don't have to make it easy for you. They don't care. They're doing the bare minimum to comply with the law, and that's it.
Right.
And you have to do that.
So I'm just going to stop you for a brief second because you said something very interesting that I want you to, if you can, kind of repeat a little bit slower. You are correct. The police don't have the time for this. They don't even know what to do. But even from a lender's perspective, when I say to someone, you could have even put something on your credit report, a statement that says, I'm a victim of fraud, that sort of thing. Or you're telling me this is not yours, but do you have any way to back it up? Can you give me a police report? So you don't go to the local police, or you can if you want, but they're going to tell you that this is not something we handle. Who do they go to? You mentioned it briefly.
Yes, thanks for bringing me back to this. Yes, the FTC is who would investigate this, and you can go to idtheft.gov, and it's the FTC ID theft affidavit is what you're filling out there. And that is a law enforcement report about, you can go through and you can list every trade line, every account that you believe to be part of this identity theft, and you'll have an official report that comes out of that. I don't know much about how the FTC actually enforces that. I would assume it's like every other federal agency right now, and just not a lot gets done with those. But at the very least, you can say that you've now made that report, and then
you did something, right?
Exactly. Because that's the thing that I get concerned most with about identity theft. Victims, when they come to me, they're pretty fed up. They're at the end of their wits with this because it's an extremely frustrating problem to try and get corrected. And again, like we said, you can dispute it as many times as you want. Usually these things aren't going to get corrected in that way. And once again, it's because the credit reporting agency doesn't have to trust your word on this. And they don't even always trust the FTC ID theft affidavit. I mean, that's the subject, I think, of a lot of my identity theft lawsuits, where everybody agrees, yes, this consumer disputed these accounts. They had a law enforcement report, but the furnisher came back and said, oh, this is accurate. We verified that account. And it's because they don't trust you. They don't have any reason to trust you. They most of the time are not going to be held accountable for not trusting you, and so they don't. And again, that's why I like getting this information out, because this is a thing that I do every single day, is suing the credit reporting agencies for these types of errors and helping folks get this corrected. So it's knowledge is power on this one, for sure.
Yep, there went the rainbow. Knowledge, the more you know.
Yes, exactly. We'll put that in post.
Exactly. So I really appreciate all this information. And we've talked about this a lot, John and I. We've tried to educate on how the system actually works, the eOscar system, how it's all data. It all comes down to little codes, and nobody is really caring. And that's the thing. It's not like we're dealing with a bunch of people. Like you said, the three of us are not sitting in a room discussing this as adults. This all comes down to the system, the monster, as you called it. You see duplicate reporting, re-age debt, errors that might be easy to miss. How significant are these?
Yeah, I think as far as, when I started with mixed files and identity theft, I started with those two because I think those are the most impactful on somebody's credit health. But as far as the most common, duplicate reporting, re-age debt. The other one is balances reporting after an account's been paid off or has been resolved in some way. Not to jump too much into all these different areas, but in my view, those are the three of the most common types of errors that you'll see. And so duplicate reporting, again, it's a lot of times it's not a majorly significant impact on the person's credit health, but it doesn't belong on their report. And the reason I say it's not majorly, impactful on their credit health is that a lot of times the duplicate account that's being reported is relatively small. And so if you have a $1,000 account with a bank, let's say it's a Chase account, you have $1,000 account with Chase, but now it's reported twice on your credit report. Well, now instead of your credit showing that you owe $1,000, it shows that you owe twice that amount. You owe $2,000. But in the grand scheme of things, the difference between owing 2,000 or 1,000 is not a major difference. Where you start to see it become a big issue is when you have much larger duplicate accounts. Then you see it have more of an impact on credit score, credit worthiness, things like that. But even if this is a duplicate account of $5, that's against the law. They can't report the duplicate information on there. And you have the statutory right to have this investigated and corrected. And if they don't do that, then they're liable for damages to you in some way. And so that, I think, is again, one of the more common errors that we see. Re-aging, that one's really common, but it's a little trickier because most credit reports that I think a lot of people are familiar with seeing are actually like truncated versions of a credit report. Like what you're seeing on Credit Karma is not all of the information in your credit file, and it's not all the information that a lender is going to see about your report. If you got a report directly from a mortgage lender, now you can see that there's significantly more information on that report, including all the different dates of, the date of first delinquency, the date of last activity, all these different date fields that you don't necessarily see when you pull up, Credit Karma or through, everybody has these through their bank now or their credit card company, where you get this. It's a streamlined version of your report, but it makes it harder to identify where accounts have been re-aged like that. Which, and not to get too far afield here, but that's one of the reasons why I like to see people use, like a credit report from annualcreditreport.com, which is just
there
your
it is. Ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
There it is. That's our favorite comment right there. Thank you for saying that. Sorry to interrupt you. I got excited.
John slipped me $5 to put that in. That's
Yeah.
no, again, there's lots of good places to get a credit report. The official thing though is annualcreditreport.com. That's
Well, let me interject. One of the major reasons I like this, number one, I mean, it doesn't have credit scores, but the other positive, certainly, is that you've got the soft pulls that you can see who's examining you on there. And that comes only with the annualcreditreport.com.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and one note on that. I mean, that's one thing that we look for in credit reporting lawsuits is who has seen this information about you, because it's I think the credit reporting agencies like to point to that this error on your credit report is the if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it type situation. Like, okay, yes, there was an error, but nobody ever saw it, so it's fine. Nothing happened here, which is almost always not true. What they're talking about when they say that in litigation with my clients is, well, you didn't have a denial. There wasn't a hard pull on your credit. But if you look at the soft pull section of your credit, lots of people are getting the information about you every single month. And again, you don't have control over this. You don't have control over what, when they're accessing it or what's being sent to them, which again is why it's so important to stay on top of your credit report, to know what's in there. And if you have issues, if you have errors on your credit report, to get them corrected as soon as possible, because, this any type of misinformation in your credit report is going to have a life of its own. It's going to run without you being involved in that. So
thank you for all of this, Jacob. We're actually going to wrap this up for this edition, but Jacob, you said you'd come back and we can finish this conversation. We have more things to talk about for sure. And all of this is so important. And I'm so happy we ended on the annualcreditreport.com. Again, ding, ding, ding. We have literally been saying this nonstop. And everything you're talking about is if you see this, if you see this, if you see this, people need help, right? How are they going to see it? Don't wait till it impacts a credit decision. Don't wait for that. Go immediately and pull that credit report. It's free, and read it. And if you need help with something, that is exactly why Jacob is here. So with that, we're going to schedule a second, or actually in this case, it'll be a third time that we get to speak with Mr. Hippenstall here. Thank you again, Jacob. Thank you, John. This is Give Me Credit. Please like, subscribe, ring that bell, and follow along. In upcoming episodes, we're going to have more guests sharing their knowledge of all things credit. You won't want to miss those. Also, as we always invite you, please feel free to send us questions and comments. We really want your input on topics you would like us to cover. We're trying to get some very good information to enhance your financial life. Thank you, Jacob, for joining us. We look forward to continuing the conversation. Again, I want to just remind everybody, this is Jacob Hippenstill, founder of Hippenstill Law. You can contact him directly at 480-319-9091. And if you would prefer, or actually it's probably a great idea, go to www.hippenstilllaw.com. Let me spell that for you. HIPPENSTEEL law, LAW.com. All one word there. And again, thank you so much. John, your course drops today, correct?
Yes, thank you. It does drop today, but as we're recording this,
Yeah, excellent.
they're going to know that. Yeah, it's dropping today at 25 minutes at noon. So
Excellent. Look
that's
forward to
going to
that.
be exciting. Hopefully
Yeah.
people will take advantage of it.
That and also take advantage of our expert, our lawyer, Jacob Hippenstill. If you need help, trust me, this is not an easy system, as he has said. It's a monster. And literally, that's what he's here for.
You know, I wrote an article a couple of days ago, and it was on people would rather talk about their sex life with their parents than they would about their credit. And the reason why that came up is prior to this podcast, I was speaking with another individual that we're going to have on, and she's got problems with her credit. I said, well, why don't you pull your credit report? She said, you know what? If I do, it's going to scare me. I don't want to know. I said, oh, no, you've got to. And they don't.
No,
just because they're afraid.
It is scary. It is scary. You're right.
Yeah. Every day I don't have to answer my phone or read my mail. I'm good to go. You know, no, that's not the case. They're just building a case.
Yes, exactly. So, and that's where Mr. Hippenstill can step in and help. So again, this is Give Me Credit. I'm Jay Oswaldo, author of Mortgage Lending Explained. You can find me on Substack. And our credit genius, credit guru, is John Mackey here, author of Credit Genius. You can find him there as well. That's also where you'll find his course. Jacob Hippenstill will join us again, and we'll continue this conversation. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.